Growing up with an identical twin brother should have meant having a built-in best friend for life. Jackson and I shared everything from the moment we were born. Our faces, our toys, our room, and for 18 years the unconditional love of our parents. At least that is what I thought. I never imagined my own twin would systematically destroy my future through calculated lies, or that my parents would choose him without question. Before I dive into the painful story of how my own flesh and blood destroyed my life, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit subscribe if family betrayal stories resonate with you, and give this video a like if you believe karma eventually comes knocking. My childhood in our middle-class neighborhood in Pennsylvania holds memories that now feel like they belong to someone else. My father, Richard, built a stable career as an accountant at a respected firm downtown. He was stern but fair, the kind of man who valued honesty and hard work above all else. At least that is what he claimed. My mother, Diana, taught English at the local high school, bringing home stacks of essays to grade every evening. She had a softer approach to parenting, always ready with a hug or words of encouragement. Jackson and I entered the world just 7 minutes apart, with him claiming the title of firstborn. Looking at childhood photos, you cannot tell us apart without the color-coded clothing our parents used. Blue for me, green for him. Those early years were genuinely happy. We shared everything from our friends to our hobbies. We even developed our own secret language that confused and amused our parents in equal measure. I remember long summer days building elaborate forts in our backyard, inventing games that only made sense to us, and defending each other fiercely from neighborhood bullies. The first cracks in our relationship appeared around age 10. Small things at first. Jackson would take my toys without asking, then deny it when confronted. Items in our room would mysteriously break, and somehow the blame always landed on me. I still remember the day my treasured model airplane shattered on our bedroom floor. When our parents rushed in to investigate the noise, Jackson was already mid-tears, claiming I had knocked it down in anger. The pattern was subtle but consistent. My parents, especially our father, tended to believe Jackson without much questioning. Maybe because he was the firstborn by those 7 minutes, or perhaps because he mastered the art of appearing innocent early on. Whatever the reason, that slight favoritism planted a seed that would grow into something much more destructive later. As we entered high school, our paths began to diverge more noticeably. I developed a passion for mathematics and science, spending hours solving complex equations and building small electronics in our shared bedroom. Jackson gravitated towards sports, quickly becoming one of the popular athletes at school. He played baseball and football, collecting trophies and admirers with seemingly equal ease. Despite our different interests, I never felt any resentment toward his popularity. I was content with my smaller circle of friends who shared my intellectual curiosities. My dream was taking shape clearly in my mind. I wanted to become an engineer, creating innovative technologies that could change the world. I studied relentlessly, earning top grades and recognition from my teachers. The future seemed bright and full of possibilities. What I failed to notice was how my academic success affected Jackson. While he excelled on the field, he struggled in the classroom. Our parents never applied pressure about grades, but they did not hide their pride when I brought home perfect report cards or won science competitions. Looking back now, I can see how those moments of praise might have felt to Jackson, especially when coupled with gentle reminders about his own academic performance. Senior year brought the inevitable college application process. We both applied to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, my dream school. The day my acceptance letter arrived was one of the happiest of my life. Full scholarship, the culmination of years of hard work. Jackson received his rejection the same day, along with acceptances to several state universities with partial athletic scholarships. To my surprise, he seemed genuinely happy for me. He hugged me tightly, telling me I deserved it. For a brief moment, I thought perhaps we had outgrown the subtle rivalry of our childhood, that maybe as adults we could celebrate each other's different paths and successes. I was wrong. The final semester of senior year should have been my victory lap. I was preparing to graduate as valedictorian, finalizing my MIT housing arrangements, and enjoying the last few months with my high school friends. Instead, it became the beginning of my nightmare. Small annoyances started piling up. My study materials would go missing right before important tests. My carefully organized notes would somehow get shuffled and disarranged. When I mentioned these issues to my parents, they dismissed them as pre-graduation stress and forgetfulness on my part. The most significant warning came when my computer crashed without explanation, taking with it my nearly completed final project for advanced computer science. I had to rebuild the entire program from scratch in 2 sleepless nights. When I told Jackson about the disaster, he seemed sympathetic, even offering to bring me energy drinks as I worked. I never suspected he might have caused the crash deliberately. The day that changed everything came 3 weeks before graduation. I was called to the principal's office during lunch period. When I arrived, I found not only Principal Winters, but also both my parents looking solemn and disappointed. The cold knot of dread in my stomach tightened as Principal Winters explained why I had been summoned. The school had received evidence suggesting I had cheated on my final exams. Someone had apparently seen me with stolen test answers. The accusation was ludicrous. I had never cheated on anything in my life. I immediately denied it, looking to my parents for support. Instead, Principal Winters asked Jackson to join us. My twin brother entered the office with an expression I can only describe as reluctant sorrow. When prompted, he told everyone that he had discovered the stolen test answers in my desk drawer the previous weekend. He claimed he had confronted me privately, and I had begged him not to tell anyone. The betrayal was so unexpected, so complete, that I could barely form words to defend myself. When I finally found my voice denying everything, my protest sounded hollow even to my own ears. My parents were already looking at me with such disappointment that I knew they had made their judgment. The search of my room that followed sealed my fate. Test answers matching my handwriting were found hidden between the pages of my textbooks. I knew I had never written them, but the forgery was masterful. Even I had to admit the handwriting looked identical to mine. Years of living with me had given Jackson ample opportunity to perfect his imitation. The consequences were swift and devastating. My valedictorian status was immediately revoked. The school notified MIT of the academic dishonesty, and within days my acceptance and scholarship were withdrawn. Everything I had worked for, dreamed of, and earned through genuine hard work vanished in an instant. The confrontation at home that night was explosive. For the first time in my life, I shouted at my parents, accusing Jackson of framing me. I laid out all the small sabotages I had experienced over the semester, trying desperately to make them see the pattern. Jackson played his part perfectly, appearing hurt and confused by my accusations. My father, red-faced with anger, delivered the ultimatum that would divide our family forever. Either admit what you did and apologize to your brother, or get out of this house. I remember staring at him in disbelief, waiting for some sign that he was bluffing. There was none. My mother stood beside him, tears streaming down her face, but offering no words in my defense. In that moment, I realized a fundamental truth. They had always trusted Jackson more. My accomplishments, my character, my lifelong honesty meant nothing when weighed against his word. 2 days after graduation, a ceremony I attended in numb silence without honors, I packed a single duffel bag with clothes and the $200 I had saved from my part-time job at the library. As I walked out the door, I caught a final glimpse of Jackson watching from the staircase. The mask of sorrow had slipped, revealing a slight smirk of satisfaction. I had lost everything. My family, my home, my future at MIT. At 18 years old, I stepped into the world alone, betrayed by the people I had trusted most. The first few weeks of homelessness taught me lessons no classroom ever could. I slept in my car, an old Honda Civic that had been my 17th birthday present, parking in different Walmart lots each night to avoid attention. I showered at a local gym where I purchased the cheapest monthly membership available. Each morning I would wash my face in the bathroom sink, put on my cleanest shirt, and continue my desperate search for employment. My savings dwindled rapidly. Without a college plan or parental support, I needed income immediately. After 27 rejections, I finally found work at Electronic Emporium, a small repair shop owned by a man named Harold Fisher. The pay was minimum wage, but Harold did not seem put off by my vague explanations about my living situation. What started as simple cashier duties soon revealed an unexpected opportunity. One afternoon, a customer brought in a laptop with complex motherboard damage. While Harold examined it, I mentioned a potential fix I had read about in one of my engineering books. Harold gave me a curious look, then handed me the tools to try my solution. It worked. That moment changed the trajectory of my new life. Harold began training me in electronics repair, a perfect match for my engineering interests. He was in his 60s, a self-taught technician with decades of experience, and no patience for formal credentials. Skills matter more than papers, he would often say, words that gave me hope when my lost MIT future felt particularly painful. After 3 months of living in my car, Harold offered me the apartment above his shop. It was small, just one room with a bathroom and kitchenette, but it was the first place that felt safe since leaving home. The rent was reasonable, discounted further by my agreement to open the shop early and close late. With stable housing and employment secured, I turned my attention back to education. I enrolled in evening classes at the local community college, studying engineering fundamentals while working full-time. Those 2 years were exhausting but purposeful. I would work from 7 in the morning until 6 at night, attend classes until 10, then study until my eyes could no longer focus. During those early months, I made several attempts to contact my parents. Each call went unanswered, each message unreturned. Eventually, I stopped trying. The silence was its own kind of answer. Through social media, I learned that Jackson had enrolled at State University, fully supported by our parents both emotionally and financially. The contrast to my own struggle was stark. By my second year at community college, I had saved enough for transfer applications. I was accepted to the engineering program at Northeastern State University, in the neighboring state, not MIT, but a respectable program that would accept most of my credits. I said goodbye to Harold, who had become more family to me than my biological relatives ever were, promising to stay in touch. University life brought new challenges. To afford tuition and living expenses, I worked 2 jobs alongside a full course load. Weekdays, I repaired electronics at a local shop similar to Harold's. Weekends, I worked security at campus events. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford, but my grades never suffered. If anything, the hardship fueled my determination. Every perfect score felt like a silent rebuttal to those who had believed I was capable of cheating. My final year brought an internship opportunity at TechFuture, a growing startup developing innovative solar technology. The position was competitive, sought after by students, with far more prestigious backgrounds than mine. I spent weeks perfecting my application, leveraging my practical repair experience alongside my academic achievements. When the acceptance came, I allowed myself the first real celebration since my life had imploded. The internship transformed into a job offer upon graduation. I started as a junior engineer, but quickly proved my value. Within 3 years, I had led the development of 2 patented technologies that significantly improved the efficiency of their solar panels. My salary increased with each success, allowing me to move from my cramped studio apartment to a comfortable 1-bedroom in a better neighborhood. By year 5, I had been promoted to Chief Technology Officer, overseeing all product development. The company's growth attracted attention from larger corporations, culminating in a buyout that included substantial stock options for key employees. At 27, I suddenly found myself with financial security I had never imagined possible during those nights sleeping in my car. The professional success helped, but the emotional journey was more complicated. I spent 2 years working with a therapist to process the betrayal and abandonment. Slowly, I built a new support network. My colleagues became friends. Friends became chosen family. I hosted Thanksgiving dinners and celebrated birthdays, creating new traditions to replace the family rituals I had lost. Dating proved more challenging. Most relationships ended when conversations inevitably turned to family. My brief relationship with Sophia collapsed under the weight of her disbelief. "Nobody cuts off their entire family without a good reason," she said during our final argument. "And cheating in high school is not a good reason." Then came Rachel, a graphic designer I met through a mutual friend. On our 3rd date, she asked about my family with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. I told her everything. She listened without interruption, then reached across the table to hold my hand. "I believe you," she said. 3 simple words that meant everything. Our relationship developed, slowly built on mutual respect and understanding. She became my partner in healing, never pushing for reconciliation but supporting whatever path I chose. With professional success, financial stability, and emotional support, I had rebuilt my life from the ashes of betrayal. I had done it without the family who should have believed in me, without the brother who should have protected me. I had done it alone, or so I thought. The email arrived on an ordinary Tuesday morning, 8 years after I had walked out of my childhood home. My mother's name in my inbox felt like a ghost, materializing in broad daylight. For several minutes, I simply stared at it, cursor hovering over the delete button. Eventually, curiosity won. My dearest Anderson. It began a greeting so jarringly intimate after years of silence that I nearly closed the message immediately. Not a day goes by that I don't think of you and miss you. I hope this message finds you well. The carefully constructed sentences that followed revealed the true purpose behind this sudden contact. My father had lost his accounting position in a company downsizing. At 59, he struggled to find new employment. Jackson's business venture, some vague startup he had launched after college, had failed spectacularly, leaving him with substantial debt. My parents had refinanced their home multiple times to support him and now faced foreclosure. My father had also developed heart problems, resulting in mounting medical bills. Between expressions of how much they missed me were thinly veiled references to my success and reminders of family responsibility. The message concluded with a suggestion that we meet to reconnect as a family should. The emotions that flooded through me were overwhelming. Anger came first, hot and immediate. 8 years of silence, broken not by a genuine desire to make amends, but by financial need. Then came a surprising wave of vindication. The golden child had failed. The parents who had chosen him were suffering the consequences. Beneath these reactions lurked something more complicated, a small, stubborn flicker of longing for the family I had once believed in. For the parents who had tucked me in at night and celebrated my achievements before that final betrayal. I forwarded the email to Rachel, who called me immediately. We talked for hours that night alongside a later session with my therapist. Both encouraged me to consider what I actually wanted from this potential reunion. Not what I felt obligated to do, but what would bring me peace. After days of contemplation, I replied to my mother agreeing to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our cities, a neutral location that would allow me to leave easily if necessary. The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon. I arrived early, selecting a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. When they walked in, the sight of them hit me harder than expected. My parents looked older, worn down by stress and time. My father's confident stride had diminished to a careful walk. My mother's hair had turned completely gray. And Jackson, once the athletic star appeared, deflated his shoulders, hunched forward as though carrying an invisible weight. They spotted me and approached with uncertain smiles. My mother moved as if to hug me, but something in my expression stopped her. Instead, we exchanged awkward greetings and settled into uncomfortable silence. My father broke it first, launching into casual questions about my life as though we were simply catching up after a brief separation. How was work? Did I live nearby? Was I seeing anyone? I answered minimally, waiting for them to reveal their true purpose. It came after 20 minutes of this strained, small talk. My father cleared his throat and mentioned their temporary financial setback. The foreclosure notice, the medical bills, Jackson's failed business. They needed a loan, a substantial one, to save their home and stabilize their situation. I looked at Jackson, who had remained mostly silent. Do you have anything to say to me? He shifted uncomfortably, then offered what passed for an apology in his mind. Look, we were just kids back then. I did some stupid things, but it was years ago. Time to move on, right? We are family. The dismissive nature of his apology ignited something in me. 8 years of built-up pain and anger crystallized into cold clarity. Tell them, I said quietly. Tell them exactly what you did, or I walk out that door and you never hear from me again. Jackson's face paled. He looked to our parents, who appeared confused but increasingly uncomfortable. What is he talking about, Jackson? My mother asked. Under the pressure of my unwavering stare, Jackson finally broke. He admitted everything. The deliberate sabotage of my computer. The forged test answers. The elaborate lie constructed to destroy my future because he could not stand living in my shadow. As he spoke, our parents' expressions transformed from confusion to horror. You knew how important MIT was to him, my mother whispered, her voice breaking. You knew what you were taking away. My father, always the stern disciplinarian, sat in shocked silence, his worldview visibly crumbling. When Jackson finished his confession, I addressed my parents directly. You chose to believe him without question. You threw me out without even considering my side. For 8 years, I have received not one call, not one message asking if I was even alive. The silence that followed was deafening. I will not give you money without conditions, I continued. If you want my help, all 3 of you will attend family therapy. You will acknowledge in writing what was done to me. Jackson will contact MIT and my high school to admit his lies. Only then will I consider financial assistance, and even then, it will be on my terms. I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee on the table. Think about it. Let me know your decision. As I walked away, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I had exacted revenge, but because I had finally taken control of a narrative that had defined me for too long. In the months that followed, my parents accepted my conditions. The family therapy sessions were difficult, but necessary, revealing patterns of favoritism and enabling that had begun long before the final betrayal. My father especially struggled to confront his role in what happened. I kept my word, helping with their medical bills, but not the mortgage or Jackson's debts. Those were consequences they would need to face themselves. Jackson, to my surprise, followed through as well. He wrote letters to both MIT and our high school explaining his actions. While it could not undo the past, the acknowledgement meant something. Today, my relationship with my parents exists in a careful, limited way. We speak occasionally. They have visited my home once, meeting Rachel, and seeing the life I built without them. Jackson and I may never truly be brothers again, but the honest confrontation cleared the air of lies that had poisoned our family for nearly a decade. The most important lesson I learned through this journey was not about revenge or even justice. It was about defining family on my own terms. About building a life so full and meaningful that the holes left by betrayal could be filled with new connections, new purposes, new loves. Has your family ever betrayed your trust or chosen sides unfairly? Share your story in the comments below. If my journey of rebuilding after betrayal resonated with you, please subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming family challenges. Hit that like button if you believe in creating your own happiness after others. Try to destroy it, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that survival is possible after family betrayal. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that sometimes the family we choose matters more than the family we are born into.